bohemians, my generation, was starting to die out. It was my first trip to Porto Alegre in almost 2 years. I had arrived a week earlier, filled with memories of a breezy, colorful town, trapped in the amber of spring days, tinted by blue skies and the flowering pink trumpet trees of Parque da Redenção. Memories that were undoubtedly real, and yet pointed to a past both indistinct and disconnected from the present. Throughout that week, the city, carpeted in filth and sizzling under the heat of the worst summer in decades, had reminded me of a hepatitis patient left to die in the sun. Cars and people steered clear of the streets on that final day of January, school vacation in full swing and Carnaval just around the corner, and the municipal transport strike, which was on the 5th consecutive day of its shutdown, was the final component in a bell jar of lethargy that had descended over everything. Workers in the city's outskirts cried into news cameras that they couldn't get to work, and their bosses were docking their pay. Jitneys, school vehicles authorized by the city for emergency use, and illegal buses that seemed like they might fall to pieces at any moment sped down empty bus lanes crammed with heat-stricken passengers. Cabbies honked their horns and wreaked havoc willy-nilly, high on the overdose of passengers, some even charging night fares in the light of day just because they could. The cab driver who, a few days earlier, had driven me from the airport to the hospital where my dad was admitted, said the strike had already been deemed illegal by the labor courts, but that the strikers were unmoved and there was no end in sight. Buses seen daring to leave their garages were pummeled with rocks by trade unionists. Drivers quarreled with each other and with their bosses, who were being accused of encouraging the stoppage as a way of pressuring the government to raise fares, even though it wouldn't, not in the wake of the June 2013 protests that, fueled by police violence, had put an end to countrywide fare hikes. In the meantime, plants scorched under the sun. The real feel in the early morning resembled a rainforest, and all over downtown, temperature displays showed afternoon highs of over 45 degrees Celsius. The tap water ran hot, not warm, hot, nearly scalding. Several sections of the city were without power or water, sometimes for hours or even days. Those living in the outskirts had it the worst, of course, and started road blockages to protest this neglect. Panhandlers crowded together in the shade, napping the morning away on their cardboard beds, their sleep incredulous and beggarly, their eyes half open. All I wanted was to nestle into the building's stoop and sink into that same slumber. After a slow lull, I glanced again at my cell phone screen, which still displayed the story of Andrei Dukelski's murder on the Zero Hora news site. I scrolled through the article, the sweat from my fingers slicking the iPhone glass. According to his girlfriend, a certain Francini Predrojo, Andrei had gone out for a jog around 9:30 that night, taking with him only his house key and his smartphone, which the criminals had swiped. Though the crime scene was in a reasonably busy area, even at night, there had been no witnesses. One of the most promising new talents of contemporary Brazilian literature was the descriptor accorded to him in the text. Duke, as his friends called him. The hashtag RIP Duke offered instant access to the shock and sadness expressed by his friends and readers on social media. I didn't have the guts to click on it. Andrei and I weren't that close anymore. The last time I'd seen him was a few years earlier in Sao Paulo, on the evening of his last book signing, or at least the last one I heard about. He had stopped updating Twitter and, as I later found out, had committed Facebook suicide. Our relationship had been at its most intense 15 years earlier, in college, back when we both wrote for our email fanzine Orangutan and had conversations we would later recall as extremely profound. He made me read Camus, João Gilberto Noel, Moby Dick. I tried to picture where our other e-zine contributors might be, especially Emiliano.